Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Stars and Stripes Xfinity Series. It's time for a new season to start. It's here at Daytona, the 2.5 mile course. We're going to be running here for 80 laps, 200 miles. It's going to be a fun one. My name is Sam Dyer. With me is going to be that of Hunter Hayward. And Hunter, it's Daytona, start of a new season. These drivers have already starting to practice super speedway pack racing here in the Xfinity cars. Well, how are you feeling about this race here tonight?
Well, Sam, it's great to be in the booth with you for the first time. Great to be with this brand new league. I'm excited to call the shots up here in the booth with this Xfinity League. Uh, awesome track to do it at to start it off. Daytona, pack racing, action pack racing from green to the checkered. So it's gonna be really interesting. Anybody can win it, and I'm looking forward to calling an exciting show today.
And before we get things going any further here at the Freaky Fast Broadcasting, we do got to give a huge thanks to ButtKicker. Feel what you've been missing as ButtKicker has partnered up with us. Use the promo code FreakyFast20. That's Freaky with two E's, as you can purchase the Gamer 2, a way for you to feel the sensations instead of hearing them with your ears. Why not feel the sounds that you are seeing on your screen? A great way to enhance your entertainment facilities in any facet. The Gamer 2 from ButtKicker. Feel what you've been missing. Remember to use the promo code FreakyFast20. That's Freaky with two E's to get 20% off on your next purchase. But yeah, Hunter, it's time for some great racing. Drivers still have 3 more minutes here in practice. It's a completely new season and also a new series for us. A lot of new names that we have not seen here on the Freaky Fast Broadcasting. But it is certainly a fun night for us. 200 miles. It is going to be a marathon for these drivers here tonight. And really, strategy calls have been given to the drivers with 90% fuel. Means these drivers are going to have a very tactical, strategy-ridden night for themselves.
Almost definitely, and if this race stays green, but looking from these practices, these drivers driving 3-4 wide all the way from the start of the end of the pack. Might not look like it'll go green for very long, but right now it looks like if it stays green, they still have to make 2 stops, and it would not make a full green flag run in just a 1-stopper. So interesting strategies we might see thrown in the air today, and maybe drivers running out of fuel at the end, trying to get a victory.
Already seeing some drivers wrecking out of this pack. Again, this is practice for these drivers. Still another about 2 minutes to go. And for these drivers, super speedway racing, there've been a couple of updates given to iRacing recently. Doesn't look like they've really been hitting the Xfinity cars, but still, what we're seeing right now, Hunter, is this kind of what we're feeling that we're going to be seeing for most of the night?
As a driver going into Daytona, you usually see drivers make a little bit more aggressive moves in practice than you would do in a race. Definitely a lot more 3-wide action in practice than you definitely would see while you're racing. But I think drivers like to play a little bit more conservative and try to take it easy the first about 90% of the race before you see any aggressive moves or people trying to get up to the front, just trying to make sure that they won't wreck out of the race and make it there to the end, because being inches from cars from inside and outside, front and back, it's not fun to be making aggressive moves the entire race and knowing that you could wreck it any second.
Also, this gives a shot for the drivers to get a little of that tension out before they really got to wrestle it back in with qualifying. The drivers will have 2 laps to try to put down their best time solo qualifying for themselves. They'll have 5 minutes to do so. So during that qualifying time, we'll touch on it more once we're watching qualifying, but that is also going to be a pretty tension-filled aspect of this. With the Xfinity drivers and with the fact of these cars, do you feel like track position is important here at Daytona?
Track position really is important anywhere, but Daytona, I wouldn't say as much for the beginning of the race. Maybe towards the end, where there's about 10 laps to go, track position definitely will be the most important, especially if they're in a big pack. But earlier in the race, I think drivers who usually will see their way, or who want to make their way up to the front early in the race, might stay in the back and just try to take care of their stuff. Know they still got to pit a couple more times, and maybe just try to survive it until the end and make their way up to the front when the race is coming to an end. So it'll be interesting to see what the mindset of these drivers will be today, and maybe they will stay aggressive this entire race. It'll be interesting one to find out, but like you said, Sam, qualifying is coming up, and let's see what these times the drivers can put down.
Time's up here in practice. It's now time to figure out by yourself how smooth and quick can you be. 5 minutes for qualifying these drivers going to have as the session is getting loaded back up. And now the drivers are loading in. We've got a little over 35 drivers that are going to be racing here tonight. Pretty big field to start out the season, and exciting to see all the drivers that have loaded in for tonight's race. With that big of a field, that means we're going to be seeing a lot of drivers trying to figure out how to cut their way through traffic. Once we go green, the drivers are now starting to load up, getting ready for qualifying. And Hunter, drivers, especially here at super speedways, what are some of the biggest factors that they have to worry about here during qualifying?
Well, most importantly, during qualifying, I believe that the first lap is the most crucial for any type of qualifying at Daytona, especially. But what you'll see on board of this car right here, I can't really tell what number it is. I'm still learning names, unfortunately, since this new league. But you'll see him try to run 67 to Tom Velez. We'll figure that one out. But you'll see drivers try to run up towards the wall for that first lap, try to get the most momentum as they can coming towards the front stretch, get the best run-in speed their car can for that first lap around. In second lap, you'll see the drivers try to hug that yellow line for most of the run, just to get, not to scrub off as much speed as they can, just to keep the momentum on that bottom line and have the quickest lap around there. I think times you'll see is around the 57 seconds, 56 seconds. Not very familiar with Daytona. I know Talladega a little bit more, but these cars in a single pack are definitely a lot slower than they are in a much bigger pack.
Absolutely. Tom Velez giving us a shot of what it's like driving down the long back stretch where you're just building up speed to try to attack this corner. Going to be going all the way down the yellow line. This is very kind of different from what we usually see from other drivers. How are you feeling about him starting off going all the way down to the yellow so early in qualifying?
Yeah, many drivers have different strategies in how they qualify, and I don't know the mindset of other driver. I'm not in the mind of what they're thinking they can do, but like you said, I mean, he's definitely trying many things, like going down to the yellow line on the first lap. Looks like he's going to do the same thing the second lap and see if he can make it just a little bit quicker this time. But I mean, yeah, it's very interesting to some of the lines the drivers do at Daytona. I mean, coming up towards the wall, just trying to get as much momentum as you can off the corner and get the run towards the entry of 3 and 4. Might be a little bit more of a smarter move, but definitely in the corners you want to hug that inside line as much as you can, because it just keeps the momentum through the corner and sweeps out onto the front stretch just to keep the most speed you can without scrubbing off as much speed.
This is going to be Velez's last time around, and going to be pushing himself up to, looks like, that of 5th place currently, but certainly we're expecting this field to change a lot. Half the field still has not even touched the course to put their first lap time down, as here is going to be that of Haas Beverly in the 22. Trying to put himself a little bit further up, but one of those drivers that's waiting to just finish his first lap. Again, running low, but not all the way down to the yellow line. That could be scrubbing off some time if you're not all the way down there. But, some of these drivers trying to find that comfort level for themselves, as we're seeing a lot of other drivers moving up through the field, as Beverly moves up to 18th currently for himself. But right currently on top of the board, it's going to be the 53 of Christopher Wade. And that driver has finally finished. As I say that, though, it's going to be Nick Holland in the 68 getting up there, then the 44, and it just continues to change. Excuse me, I've been looking at the wrong one. That's going to be Cole Grims, who's going to be on top of the board. Just a lot of changes going on for these drivers, and this is what qualifying gives you, the drama of where drivers are going to be placed for themselves. Currently now, the 22 dropped down to 21st position, losing a couple of positions. For some of those drivers that are thinking about staying in the back, their time to get out there and put a lap down has closed. And we'll wait for everyone else to finish out their qualifying times as Beverly comes across. We'll wait and see what position he gets. Going to be only moving up. It looks like not even going to be gaining any time on that last lap. Actually losing ground. It's Cole Grant still top of the board. He's on his cooldown lap. Hunter, qualifying's almost come to a close for these drivers. Any surprises when you were looking through the field?
I wouldn't say necessarily many surprises yet again. Like I said, or like we said, this is still a new league. We're still getting familiar with drivers, but right now, I mean, the times are looking pretty fast for a Daytona type style qualifying. So uh, I wouldn't say too surprised with how the field shaped up. Still getting familiar with drivers and how their style is, but right now, it looks like Cole Grimm's top of the board at the 50.47. So it's a pretty fast lap for Cole Grimm's, and congratulations for the first pole to the 3 car.
3 car gets the pole. Qualifying has come to a close, and it is now time for the Stars and Stripes Xfinity Series to get underway for the Raze Energy Drink Daytona 200. Your starting grid, it's going to be the 3 of Cole Grims, with Chris Aries going to be in the 33 in second. Then Scott Richard going to be in third place with the 05, and then you've got yourself with Eric Schwarr, who's going to be in the 13. Ken Campbell going to be in fifth place with Kyle Boyling, who's going to be in the 44. In sixth place, Andrew Medlin's going to be also in seventh place with Andrew Hull, going to be in eighth. Dylan Grin, who's going to be in ninth place. In 10th, it's going to be Mike Waits.
11th will go to the spot, or 11th spot will go to the 68 car of Nick Holland. 12th spot will go to Nate Lynch. 13th will go to Mike Lynch. 14th will go to Christopher Wade. 15th, Travis Butte. 16th, Brian Chu. 17th, Mark Beverly. 18th, Patrick Hasty. 19th will go to Brian Lynch. 24, Brian Lynch. 20th, Trey Jackson.
And in 21st position, it's going to be that of Brad Davis. Then in 22nd, Thomas Velez, who we were watching for his first couple of laps there. Then it's going to be that of Jason Ricketts, who's going to be in the one machine in 23rd. Kyle McCoy is going to be in 14th, with that of George Kovesk, who's going to be in 25th, with that of Haas Beverly, Bill Dart, Travis Dart, John Dart, the Darts, all in a row from 27th to 29th. And then in 30th, it's going to be Derek Offerman.
And 31st, it'll be Timmy McNally. 32nd, Paul House. 33rd, Max Ward. 34th, Adam Allen. 35th, Brandon Messick. 36th, we'll go to Jason Metcalf. 37th, Brian Burchett. 38th, Josh Warner. And wrapping up the field at 39th is going to be Douglas Hooper.
And we will get these names fully down, and hopefully later on in the season. It's our first race with these drivers. Names are going to be a little tricky, but we will fully get them hopefully by the end of this race. Again, 80 laps is for this race. Hunter, what are some of the key factors these drivers are going to be aiming for to have the best finish they can get?
Well, definitely the key mindset going into Daytona or any super speedway track is just settling in and just getting a rhythm with everybody, just knowing that you still got a long ways to go at the beginning of the race, knowing you still got to make a couple pit stops. So just get single filed out, settled in, and just know what you got to do without making any mistakes or being too aggressive, just taking care of your stuff, being comfortable with the people around you, and hopefully you can just be up front towards the end of the race and make sure that you're not going to be in any trouble or try to make the risk possible as low as you can, especially for pack racing, because it can be very scary.
Absolutely. I think it's going to be a lot of skill and luck needed for these drivers, but great points you gave there, Hunter. Can't wait to see how these drivers are going to be adapting to this race. If they stay green, it's going to be a two-stopper, but we saw during practice, it can get chaotic very quickly. The Stars and Stripes Xfinity Series season opener for the Raze Energy Drink Daytona 200. We are green, as here comes Cole Grims, and the 33 to his outside. It's Daytona Racing as they race down to turn number 1.
And it looks like that 3 car is going to keep the lead going into 1. Looks like that inside line got a much better run than that outside. And I think, like I mentioned earlier, I think that inside line is going to be the way to go around this track. Is people might want to start getting single filed out and just getting into a rhythm. As you can see, space is opening up for cars to drop down on the inside. So it'll definitely be very interesting to see if any cars will try to make their way up to the top and try to get up to the front and get a run for the lead, but it looks like so far the cars are going to start getting single filed out before the conclusion of lap 1.
Yeah, not the biggest surprise to see some of these drivers understanding, hey, let's take things slow up front. They are getting close in side-by-side racing from fourth on back, but everyone else kind of recognizing let's just give each other space. This is a long race, still plenty of time, and it's not really time to make that big move for these drivers. Also, not going to be, for a lot of them, we're seeing drivers really dropping back. Saw about, looked like 30 drivers taking a qualifying time, but already going to the low side, that's going to be that of Nick Holland, who's going to be deciding to drop all the way down on the apron, one of the safest ways to get out of danger and find an opening in the back half of the field.
Yeah, and as I mentioned earlier, Sam, it looks like some drivers are trying to get their way up to the front. The top's definitely going to get the run on the straights. As you can see how much better the top is. Now you see the 05 drop up. Scott Rickard going up there. Now he's going to have the lead, and he'll lead that lap going for lap 2. But right now, it looks like the top line is the line that's rolling right now. I'm surprised there, Sam. These cars definitely are driving pretty interesting. Double wide for about 8 rows back right now. Definitely aggressive for spots right now and not really trying to get into a rhythm. Definitely looking for track position right now.
Absolutely, and we saw when we went live, we were watching the practice where drivers were lining up, and up front, it was that of Andrew Medlin and also Rickard, who were up front leading their groups, but they were kind of swapped with that of Medlin on the inside and the 05 on the outside, but showing that there is speed to be found on the outside. Get enough cars going and find that momentum to launch yourself on the high side as they're still side-by-side coming across the line. It's going to be the 05 of Scott Rickard who's going to be up front, leading the charge so far. We're still seeing the pack very much still all together. Our top 13 all in this lead pack, jam-packed like sardines and waiting to make their move forward. As we're still waiting to see, I mean, the 3 right now of Cole Grimm's kind of just boxed in right now where the outside lane is, not giving the 3 any space to make any moves. We are starting to see drivers in the back kind of lingering back where they're at. There's a few drivers all the way at the end, though, that are a little bit too far back for my liking, but they just are nipping at the heels of the draft.
And Sam, don't take your eyes away from that 12 of Andrew Medlin right now. I mean, he's definitely making that top side work, especially on the straights where he kind of keeps back up with the 05 of Rickard, but he kind of loses the momentum a little bit in the corners, but makes it all the way back up on the straights. As he's going to be leading it into turn 1, but right now that 12 not holding back at all right now, and is definitely trying to get that first place spot and lead out that pack in hopes they get single filed right behind him.
No, Hunter, these drivers are going to be probably staying like this until pit stops loom over. Are you one of those drivers that likes to be up front, or one of the drivers that likes to wait until about 5 laps to go?
You know, the best thing is, I always like the saying is just, you hope you're up front, because if you tell people you're pitting, everyone behind you will most likely go with you because they know they need a draft partner. As you see, now the 3 go back up top, and the 05 is going to be left out. The 3 probably will be the leader going into turn 1. This has got no help from behind so far. Now the 05 gets help, but it looks like the 3 will take the lead going into 1. But like I was talking about, I mean, track position is so important when green flag pit stops happen that you want to be the leader, because when you tell people you're pitting in, most people want to go with you since they want that drafting partner for even more track position as everyone gets filed out during green flag pit stops. But it's definitely very interesting to see what different strategies other people do on the track while you're pitting under green flag pit stops. So I wonder what type of strategies these drivers will do tonight, as they are definitely battling it out side by side. Many rows back at this track right now, they are not holding anything back.
Absolutely not. I mean, looking back, it's around, I would say, 12th, 11th, where the drivers are still side by side all the way back, 6 rows deep. And then behind them, you've got drivers that are kind of spacing themselves out, giving enough room. Hey, if you want to move forward, go for it. If you don't have to worry about yourself either. Now, these drivers did have a practice race earlier on this week, and we're trying to test out how the package was going to feel for themselves. And the driver that won that race was Mike Lynch in the 2. We're currently running in 14th, and one of the drivers that's I'm going to keep my eye on. If you're able to win a practice race, kind of like a duel, it kind of gives you that momentum and courage that you can make a move later on that could get you a win.
You know, and Sam, I'm still looking at this front pack right now. The 12 of Andrew Medlin really on that back bumper of the 3 car of Cole, and that's the only thing that scares me is he's keeping that top line in momentum, but the only way he has to do it is really keep to the back bumper of that 3 car, and he's getting really squirrely on the straights. I'm afraid that he might just get a little bit squirrely while he's behind that 3 car and possibly hook him. And you never want the leader to be hooked because that can cause chaos. And what Daytona is mostly known for, the big one. So hopefully drivers aren't too aggressive on the back bumpers of cars, because that's definitely where the craziest things can happen. But right now it looks like the 12's getting a little bit space now, keeping the temperatures down. And as you can see, he's getting a little bit air when you look at the outside of the 3 car. But definitely a lot of aggressive moves we see, not only in the front, but even in the back. Is now way in the back, we even have cars double wide there.
Yeah, still around 15, 16 drivers are starting to stack up and get on top of one another, and it's looking like they're going to be really starting to stack on top of each other. Got to be careful. But I do want to say the 13, Eric Schwartz, decided to drop back after getting mixed up with some of the drivers in the top 10. Decided, you know what? It's a little bit too hectic up there. I'm going to fall back all the way to the middle of the field, dropping all the way back to 29th place. We started this race off with 39 drivers, almost a complete field for this league, and what a way to start. Exciting to see how these drivers are going to be attacking this, but right now it's Cole Grims up front and on the inside, still waiting if he can get maybe a push or a shove, and here it comes. It's the 05. Scott Rickard going to be trying to lead this lap, and close coming across the line there. It's about 1/100th of a second, the difference between those drivers coming across the line. We're expecting it to be that close when it comes to the end of this race. Still only on lap number 10 of 80. A lot of racing to go here, Hunter, but, you know, it's still, they're keeping it close, still side-by-side racing. If we continue to stay green like this, what is the window that these drivers are aiming towards if they need to have a green flag pit stop?
Well, the fuel window right now is looking around 34 to 36 laps. I think 36 is pushing it on fumes and running the tank dry, but I think you'll see most drivers coming around 34 to 36, just pushing the fuel window as much as they can. But maybe some drivers in the back saving it a little bit, not going full throttle at all in the straights, just keeping in that draft, and you might see drivers coming even later. Because right now it looks like the 12, almost looking 3 wide there for a second, but if this race stays green until the first cycle, yeah, you'd see drivers pit around 34, 35 to 36.
Got some fans out there in the crowd cheering on the 33. Isery right now just staying on the high side. 3rd car on the outside in 5th place. Currently has plenty of space if he needs to make any moves forward. And some other fans out there for Brian Chu right now in 11. I mean, the 11 machine in 8th place. He's hovering around on the inside for himself to be making a charge, but you touched on it. Some of these drivers looking antsy, like they're willing to go 3 wide early on, and you know, they do have a safety net. The drivers do have 1 fast repair, so basically a car sitting in pit road. That's why we are going to start to see these drivers, when we get closer to halfway, it might get a little bit too antsy for our liking, but they do have an extra car to work with if needed.
Yeah, and looking on board right now, the 11 of Brian Chu, it gives you a glimpse on how close you are between every car. You see the car on the outside of him, on his front bumper and his rear bumper, just no real space to have just to breathe. And you also got to worry about what the car on the outside is going to do, how close he's going to get to you. Is there going to be checkup in front of you? Is the car behind you going to get a run and try to get you? So there's just so many things to think about at Daytona that it's very stressful as a driver, and it looks easier than it is. That's what I'll say. But you could tell by the onboard view of Brian Chu, it definitely did not look like he was having a calm time in that cockpit.
And you know, with super speedway racing, it comes also the team aspect. We didn't really touch on it during practice or qualifying, but here during the race, we're starting to see some of the drivers that are teammates working with one another. From the team of Misfit Motorsports, you got Scott Rickard, who's also going to be with Brian Chu, Kyle Boyling, as well as George Kosick, who's going to be those drivers to watch out for. Got a couple of those teammates there. And also the Wolfpack, another team that's battling up front in our top 10. That's Cole Grims, as well as Andrew Medlin, Brian Lynch, and Chris Ezery, who are going to be those drivers to watch out for. So seeing a mixture of drivers up front, but a new guy in town, that's Ken Campbell, currently in 4th place and trying to make a charge for himself in the 15.
Yeah, and you touched on it, Sam. This is definitely a team sport, and teammates mean so much at a super speedway like this. Just to have a drafting partner and somebody, as you see the 05 now look up on high, he's going to get around the 3 and take the lead going into 3 and 4. But like you saw right there. I mean, you obviously could tell that the '05 is not teammates with that 3 car, uh, making moves to get in front of him, not really working together with him, and having a teammate is so important for someone to push you and just keep the speed and momentum with you, and that's why you see teammates pushing each other to the win at Daytona, even in real life.
A lot of commotion being made in the middle of the pack. Drivers getting squirrely, but able to hold on. I think that was Jean Dart that got out of shape, but able to hold on for himself. But drivers certainly got to be careful, especially coming out of the corner, which seems to be a spot the drivers have been finding themselves having some slight issues for themselves. As I say that, though, it was actually the 11 that got out of shape and able to hold on.
And Sam car's still too wide, about 10 rows, about 8 rows back, and still pretty aggressive up front. From the rear, though, I mean, cars are definitely still more single-filed out there. They're being less aggressive, being more conservative. Still, not actually, it's about too wide in this lead pack right now, all the way back, and it about 14 rows back and side by side everywhere. I mean, this is crazy, as Robert in my ear was saying. But and sorry about that, folks. But and yeah, we're too wide. I mean, this whole lead pack, and it's always so antsy for a driver. It's just anybody anywhere in this pack makes a mistake, and a lot of people would have to pay the consequence. And that's why it's very scary for the leaders to be aggressive. Is if somebody goes around up in the front, everybody goes around in that pack. And right now I mean, these drivers are on edges. We're looking about halfway towards our fuel window, and maybe drivers are going to stay like this the whole way.
There's a possible chance of that, as some drifting around looked like that of the 33. Got a little bit aggressive and antsy and almost got himself spun by Medlin. Don't want to get yourself too squirrely, though, as those are teammates. As the drivers that are teammates up front, that's going to be the 3, the 12, and the 33 that are working together, and all 3 of them in our top 4. The only driver that's not part of that group is the 05, Scott Rickard, who's trying to split up that of Medlin and Grims. But yeah, I mean, touching on the fact that they were too wide at times, they were too wide, stacked on top of one another, all the way back to 18th place. That is incredible to see. 9 rows of drivers staying side by side and still all hooked up together. But there is a pack of 4 that have lost the draft and are hoping for an accident to happen if they want to get back on track. Back in 36th position, you've got yourself with Brandon Missick, as well as Timmy McNally, as well as Derek Offerman and Douglas Hooper, who have decided to stay back, and they kind of lost the tail end of the draft, and it is hurting this poor group of a group as they just continue to lose ground over 15 seconds back from our leader.
You know, and Sam, as you mentioned, I mean, too wide all the way through the field. The upper lane, the outside lane, sorry about that, definitely needs to work much harder on the corners to keep up with that lane on the inside, since they have the quickest point around the track in the corners. But they keep that run on the outside to keep the momentum going through the corner to be able to catch up with that inside pack more. But they have to push people and push other cars in front of them to be able to catch up with them through that draft. But then they don't get any air to the front of their nose of the car, and that's where the temperatures and the oil and the water come up. And that's why drivers have to pay attention to the temperature on the gauges of their car so they don't blow up the engine, because it's very easy when you're not getting air to the nose of your car to be able to cool off that oil and the engine in general.
Yeah, I do got to give huge credit to this group, because they are trying to keep off one another through the corners. And the real reason of that is because in the rule book, there's a rule that states no pushing in the corners at super speedways. So they're trying to give each other space, 1, for their engine temps to make sure they don't blow up, and 2, because they've been told not to get themselves into tricky situations. This league very much on the we don't want to there's a no tolerance policy, making sure these drivers keep it clean and racy. We don't want to see a big one happen for ourselves, as they want to keep this race green as long as possible and don't want to ruin anyone else's day. But Hunter, you were touching on it just a little bit. How much of these temperatures do you think these drivers can stay hooked up with one another with the Xfinity cars? Because I know it's different through all 3 of the Trucks, Cup, and Xfinity on how long you can stay on someone's bumper, but how long can these Xfinity guys be there?
Well, Sam, usually when this car is idle or under a caution lap or just going around by themselves, I think the temperature is around 190. And behind these cars, in the draft alone, not even pushing, the temperatures usually go up to around 220, 230. And behind a car while pushing them, I believe the light starts blinking red at the driver around 270 to 280. And the engine would blow up if it got around the 300s. But just drivers, they can push for as long as they can before they know that that red light is going to start blinking at them, that the temperatures are too high. And as a driver, I definitely know it is just push somebody for as long as you can before that light goes red, because whenever it goes red, at any point in time, it can blow up. So it's definitely really easy to blow up your engine and just not pay attention to your temperatures. So you gotta pay attention to your engine, the cars around you, the people you're pushing. So it's a very stressful job as a driver, and there's so many things going on, and it's a lot to handle, and that's why racing at super speedways is very difficult at times.
I mean, all of that could be so stress-inducing, and with it being 200 miles, I mean, fatigue also you would think would set in for these drivers, with it being 80 laps here at Daytona, and with all that you have to focus on as well.
Oh, most definitely. And not only that, it's just communicating with teammates and discussing strategy and what you're going to do. As you'll see, it looks like this is going to go green for now. About 14 more laps until we see cars start coming down. 12 to 14 more laps. And this, I think the most stressful job as a driver is coming off of 4, almost going 200 miles an hour and slowing down to 60 miles an hour on pit road with about less than a football field to make it there. So it's very easy to spin out or wreck while entering pit road, and I think that's one of the most stressful jobs as a driver after racing someone too wide for around 35 to 36 laps.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot these drivers have to worry about. Do you want to touch on some of the drivers that have really moved up super speedway racing? I mean, yes, sometimes track position is important, and some drivers like to spit it in your face and say, no, it's really not. Currently making some of the biggest moves so far, that's got to be the 65, of George Kerbeck, who has done a great job for himself, moving up from 25th up to 7th, and another big mover, it's got to be Paul House, moved up from 32nd place, did not even qualify, and currently battling for 9th place.
I like how Paul's name has Dr. House on there. You gotta call him Dr. House. Sounds like a cool superhero.
Drivers that put in some fun names for themselves, and any information they really wanted to. As you can see, hometown from Franklin, Tennessee, for Dr. House, who is really hoping he could be surgical here. Cut his field and very confident.
Yeah. And Sam, as you can notice, it looks like cars, the front pack, actually, never mind, the outside pack still working is the 05 of Rickard is still trying to make his way back up to the front and get that clean air on the nose. He already has it on the outside, but I think he wants it as the leader. And about 10 more laps till this fuel run is over, and this outside line is not giving up, and I don't think they're going to be able to, or I don't think they're going to be giving up till this pit window happens. But it's going to be very interesting to see what cars will do when the pit window opens, because pitting too wide is not the best option you want to see while cars coming down, because if cars on the inside are staying out and you're coming down on the top, it could very easily cause a wreck. So it's definitely going to be interesting. I think we're going to see cars starting to get single filed out when there's around 5 laps till they start pitting. So I wonder what the type of strategies we'll see, and maybe the cars in the back who are saving fuel will stay out as much as they can with their fuel that they've been saving during this whole run.
I mean, with the draft and drivers staying behind, do you think that drivers that are staying back, how many of them do you think are really in major save mode to try to stretch it a little bit further than what some of these leaders are doing?
Anybody who has at least 3 or 4 cars in front of them can save very easily. If you get a big run on a pack of 3 or 4 cars in front of you, after staying behind them for a long time, you can easily get up to 200 plus miles an hour. So staying behind them, you don't even have to go full throttle at all for a whole lap, and you will easily keep up with the cars in front of you. So it's very easy to save fuel, and that's why we see a lot of drivers do it in real life. But having a drafting partner is what is the main key of saving fuel. And the only time you can really save fuel is in a big pack, and that's why you'll see some drivers stay back behind a huge pack, not making any moves, allowing people to get around them just to save fuel and make that run as long as they possibly can.
And these guys are really putting on a great show for themselves. Some drivers that have been making their way up into the top 10 that I'm watching out for. 44, Kyle Boyling, great job for himself to get back up here, and it's got to be great for that of Scott Rickard to see a teammate finally, because he's been up here without teammates for a while, and now he's got the 44 trying to get to his back bumper.
Yes, I mean, in this top group just is not giving up. They are still fighting, and it's very interesting. We have about 6-7 laps until this fuel window is opening. I know I keep mentioning it, but it's just, I wonder what this top line is going to do. I've never been in a race before at Daytona. I've done multiple races, but I've never seen a top line still fighting during a green flag pit stop. So, and yeah, it can definitely be scary. I don't want to see a wreck, especially with how big this pack is right now, but we might see drivers come down and drop single file, but right now it looks like that inside line is not letting that top group come down, so it's very interesting, and I guess we'll find out what will happen during these green flag laps, but who knows? We still got a little while to go. We might see a caution here.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of time still. Like we stated, there's a lot of room for them to try to stretch the fuel out, and usually it's between 4 to 5 laps. That's super speedway racing when drivers decide, you know what, we'll all get in line, and there's kind of a nice gingerly way that drivers are going to be getting that done. Also, if you're on the outside, might be thinking about stretching an extra lap than some of the guys on the inside, and crossing your fingers that you don't all come in at the same moment. Like you touched on, you don't have a lot of time to slow down, and pit roads is when you can really make or break a race for yourself. If this race goes completely green and you make a mistake on really your first green flag pit stop, it's almost impossible to dig yourself out of that hole, because you'll lose too much time and you might not have a big enough group with you to try to gain all that time back. But Hunter, I think if we don't start seeing drivers get in line around lap 31 to 32, that's when we're going to start really having a concern of when will they start to single file out.
Yeah, and that's what worries me. I don't want to see drivers starting getting single filed out a lap or two before they come in, because that's where everything gets all bunched up and mixed up and may even cause a lot of checkups and or wrecks. So it's very scary. But one thing I'd also like to mention is, like you said, entering pit road can cost so much time if you make a mistake. Speeding penalties around 40 seconds if you're caught speeding, and sitting in that stall would easily make you a lap down, especially that you've lost all your drafting partners. And not only that, drivers who realize they're coming in too hot then get freaked out and go in that brake pedal a little too hard, locking up the left front, causing the driver either to go around or not slow down in time, and then make it cause them to be speeding. So being almost picture perfect is the only thing that's possible here for Daytona, or else you will make a mistake, and the mistake will definitely cost you anywhere in racing. But here is where it's the most crucial.
Yeah, that honestly, you don't want to be caught speeding. That is going to be a major thing the drivers have to worry about. And also, you don't want to get yourself kind of a mix-up on coming onto pit road, because if you come onto pit road unsafely, that is also another penalty that you could be grabbing for yourself. But, you know, we touched on the fact of Dr. House moving up through the field after not qualifying for himself. Another driver that has followed suit on that same train, started back in 34th. That's going to be Adam Allen, who has done a great job for himself. Started in 34th, now up to 10th and in the line. And we're starting to see, you know, some of the drivers from at least 8th on back getting single filed out a little bit cleaner. It's those top 6 drivers, though, aren't playing too nice currently.
Yeah, Sam, there's only about 7 or 8 cars up on the top line now. Everyone else single filed out, as you can see that huge train of single filed cars out. But it's very interesting. About 2 to 3 laps until this fuel window opens. Still about 7 or 8 cars up on that top groove, still not giving an inch. They better get to that inside line as soon as they can, or else they could definitely have some really interesting problems, because if they can't get to down to the bottom of that apron to be able to pit because of the cars on the inside, that could definitely cause them to run out of fuel or get into a wreck. So it's scary to see why, and this 05 is still battling for the lead. Rickard and very aggressive, wanting to be up to that front rather than dropping back and going down on the inside groove. He wants that lead. Same thing with about 6-7 cars behind him.
I think the main thing for Rickard is understanding he does not want to have the 3 teammates staying in line, that of Cole Grims and also Andrew Midland and some of the other drivers there, trying to mix up the teammates so they can't all just get in the line and take off for themselves. But I feel like some drivers we could be seeing further back if they feel like, hey, this is going to be a 2-stop race. Why not pit now early? If you've got about a stack of 5 drivers, make a call, make pit a little bit earlier so that you can have a little bit more space, try to gain some time on this lead pack that continues to stay side by side. And side by side can also kind of make a large group like this not run as quick as they possibly could. But Hunter, I was looking at this field. It is still incredible. From nose to tail of this field, all the way from the top, from that of Cole Grims, all the way back to that of Nick Holland, who is all the way the last car in the line. They are at a difference of 4.8 seconds, but they're all connected in this lead pack. Absolutely incredible that we still have 35 drivers in line and still in a large group as we're inching closer and closer to green flag pit stops.
Yeah, as you mentioned, green flag pit stops, Sam, the window is just opened as we might see some cars dive down any second now. And it's very interesting. I also like to touch on the fact that the 05 of Rickard, you mentioned that he's been battling with the 3 teammates in line. Right now, that 05, it really is a sitting duck because he has nothing to do when you have 3 teammates behind you, or in front or behind you. You just have nobody to work with while they have 3 people to work with. So the 05 is really the only person to put the pressure on those 3 teammates right now, but he's definitely making it work on the top and on the bottom.
I mean, it's a battle of the teammates currently because now we've got all 4 members of Misfit Motorsports in line. That's going to be Scott Rickard, who's leading this group. Then the 44 of Kyle Bowling, who's going to be in second row on the outside. Then you've also got the 65 of that of George Kovsik, who's going to be there. And then the 11 of Brian Chu, which Brian Chu, about 15 laps ago, almost brought out our first caution, dropped all the way back to 15th, and he's marched his way now up to 9th. And 3rd car on the outside, just waiting for their moments to try to come down and get ready for green flag pit stops.
Also, Adam Allen in that 83 car, up 22 spots from 34th to 12th, running that bottom, just picking off cars one by one on that upper groove on the outside. And it's definitely making it work, as now the 05 got enough run of Rickard. He's going to take the lead, and I think this is where you're going to see all the cars coming in. As the 3s came over the radio and said he's pitting in.
Oh boy, here it comes. Only going to be 3 drivers
out.
pulling down, and most of the field stays out. So a very small group of drivers coming in now, and I'm expecting the rest of the field to come in this time by. Yes, they've been able to save maybe a lap or 2, but I know for Scott Rickard and his team, they're setting up for this lap. They have to be because of how much the 05 has been leading the pack and not saving fuel.
Yes, Sam. I mean, the 05 has been up front and cleaner all day, full throttle, just being able to keep up with the people that are behind him in the draft. Definitely pushing the fuel window here, where he's not had time to save fuel at all, as the pack 3 cars on the outside trying to battle with them to take that lead, that 24, and it looks like they have to be coming down this lap, as they are. Still a couple cars staying out, though. Only the 44 and the 05.
Splitting up. Whoa, that's a very interesting call for themselves. Now, Boyling's got to be careful for himself. Came in sliding his tires. The drivers do have plenty of tires to work with. 4 sets in total, 3 in pit road for them to have. But there were a lot of drivers that called in that they were going to come into this time by and just did not. Might have been a false call for themselves, which fooled some of the teammates.
I don't know. I guess the drivers battling right now have saved so much fuel that they can make it to lap 40. I mean, all these drivers right now have stayed in the draft for a substantial amount of time right now. I believe that some of these drivers could possibly make it a couple, 2 or 3 more laps, since they're still staying out right now.
Yeah, the group of 4 that were very dropped back over 15 seconds away from our lead pack before pit stop started, they also came in this last time by. But I do want to touch on the fact that the teammates that all came in, the 3 teammates from Wolfpack, They got split up. The 33 of Chris Azery did not get out cleanly, and he missed the draft of his lead of his teammates. Could be dropping back to this lead pack as long as they continue to run as hard as they are.
Yeah, and that right there, Sam, is just very, very unlucky and very bad for the team of Wolfpack. I mean, having a teammate is the most important thing you can have at Daytona. Is this huge pack all saying that they're going to be coming down? Is most of the leaders come down. Some cars still stay out, trying to make it a one-stop. 40 laps of fuel. I think they're going to be running it as dry as they can, but not having a teammate to work with you is the worst thing you can have at Daytona. Is nobody really wants to work with you and push you to get to the spots that you want to do or to get to win.
A lot of drivers having issues in pit road. Some of them being spun around and has some major issues. That of Max Word had an issue for himself. Also looked like that of the 67 got spun around on pit stop. So a lot of drivers having issues, and looking like some drivers could be having issues up front and running out of fuel is the 65.
Yeah, it looks like this 65 is out of gas. He did not make it. He said that is very interesting. He's at 25. I mean, all these cars coming in now. Some cars locking it up a little bit, but leaders make it in pretty dang close to hitting each other, but the leaders do make it. They're trying to make it a one-stop, and right now, if they can save the fuel like they did and stay in the draft, they're going to get passed by the leaders, unfortunately, by that overcut, or the overcut that they made. Some cars overshooting their stalls. You see that 53 there, but some drivers right now save their fuel enough that they can now make it a one-stop if they save it the same way they did in this original run.
Drivers, we were praising Paul House, Adam Allen. They both went through pit stalls and made a mistake missing their box. Both of them had to come back one more time. This is going to be costing them a great amount of time. This could be their chances of this race being out for themselves.
Yeah, and like I mentioned it earlier, is just how no mistakes is so crucial, and how you got to be pretty much picture perfect for, as we got a wreck.
Oh, they're wrecking. It's going to be Mike Lynch, the driver I thought was going to be a favorite. Also, that of Beverly going to be involved in this thing as they all scatter through. And first caution of the day, halfway marker of this race, and it was a big one.
Yeah, and all those drivers who then made that call to save it, to make it a one-stop, that kind of throws their strategy out the window, now being out of the back of the pack now. But every driver now, if they can shut it off and coast it, should be able to make it all the way to the end now. As we can see what the cause of this wreck was on the Freaky Fast replay. It looks like there was a car slow on the apron right now.
Yeah, that was a driver that has completely ran out of fuel, it looks like. And it's going to be seeing some drivers scattering around. I believe that we're going to be seeing the 11 coming through. And drivers just not expecting a driver right at the yellow line. I mean, he's practically on the racing surface. That is such a dangerous spot to put yourself in. And we're going to continue to see more drivers coming down. And we're going to be seeing drivers come out of the pits, and just calamity ensues after this. I mean, oh, that is so frustrating to watch when it's drivers coming out of pit road, drivers missing their box and costing them time. That brings them out these cautions.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, the 22 helping out the 14 who ran out of gas. Slow on the apron. Did he wreck him? Or I don't understand the cause of this caution. I think we did see a huge wreck earlier, but interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I believe Ryan Chu could be around the catalyst of this accident that happened, as he was caught up in a lot of jumbles that happened with these drivers. This is already post accident of our yellow, and it just looks like drivers coming out of pit road and just having issues getting up to speed once they got out of their box.
Yeah, and very interesting what we saw earlier is, hard lick for that 11 and the 53 car, putting them on two wheels and wrecking other cars. But Like I just saw earlier, me and you, Sam, we saw the 22 get out of his way, slow down his car to help push. I would believe a teammate, but that right there is the best teammate you can have to give up track position and maybe even a lap to push you to pit road to be able to get that fuel back in your car.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out exactly where this complete wreck starts. I think it might have started with the 2. There were a lot of drivers already spun out. This was such a calamity incident. It's hard to even tell, but they've already done service for themselves. We're getting ready to go green here shortly. I mean, what a spill that this race was turned into.
Yeah, and so many strategies being played right now, all almost being shredded up. This caution now has been able for some drivers to save their fuel, and I believe if they save enough, they can make it all the way if it stays green to the finish now. But just like you said, I mean, it went all from green flag, great racing to a calamity in a couple of laps. But yet again, that's Daytona right now. It looks like the leader's awfully slow right now, way far away from the pace car. But very interesting. Last couple of laps we've seen there, right, Sam?
Yeah, absolutely. And it looks like Scott Rickart's going to be coming in to make sure that he's got enough fuel. Also, note that we do have a driver that got an EOL, and believe that was the 14 of Brad Davis, who will start at the end of the line. But drivers, like we said, are extremely slow, so we'll let them have their time. We'll take a quick commercial break. We'll be back and hopefully ready for green flag racing action. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Stars and Stripes Xfinity Series here at Daytona. As this has been a wild caution for the drivers, they all had to come to a complete stop. And what happened was there was just an awkward timing of when the yellow came out, where all the drivers were on track. And so when the caution was waived, they had to sit, let the pace car run 2 laps for them to catch up, and then they were ready to go. We are still not sure if we're going to be going this time by. It looks like we could be going this time by, and it looks like we are. Drivers are still trying to catch up and racing to the back pack, but it looks like the drivers are good. They can make it to the end with the timing of this caution, and we are green. Cole Grims, Andrew Medlin, they continue to race on up front. We'll see if they want to stay there, though, because if they stay up front, they might not make it to the end. My name is Sam Dyer. With me is Hunter Hayward, and in the booth is Robert Moyer, who's running all the production aspects, getting the cameras, and getting everything perfect for you. But Hunter, a crazy caution, even weirder caution pacing time. We are now green.
Yeah, it really good jump for that 12 car on the outside line, but unfortunately just got a much better jump than everybody else on that outside. Wasn't able to be able to keep that through 1 and 2, and unfortunately fell back a little bit and caught up to the 3 car in the backstretch. I believe the 12 would have been the leader if he had a really good jump with everyone behind him, but still, like we've seen this entire race, still a lot of action. Everyone aggressive for every single spot they can get, too wide throughout. And I believe every driver can make it to the finish now, especially if we see another caution. But right now, I believe every driver is good, especially a majority of the pack hitting under caution just to top off on fuel, knowing that they can make it. But right now, just still aggressive racing that we've seen all race right now. And I don't know how aggressive it'll get more. Maybe we'll see 3 wide at the end of this race, but right now, 2 wide all the way through the pack.
Yeah, all the way through the pack, feeling pretty comfortable for a lot of them and where they're lying currently, as most of the field certainly were not expecting that long yellow to be there, but now getting all that antsy out, they're still 2 by 2 by 2, almost 6, 7, almost 10 rows deep in. It's going to be a crazy one here tonight because they've been staying side by side all night long. And now the question is, who's going to be brave enough to try to force 3 wide? Maybe we'll see a complete lane pop up. I mean, there is enough room to go 3 wide. It's not as big as Talladega, but certainly there's space to make some big moves.
Yeah, definitely. And you don't want to be in the position where someone puts you 3 wide and you get put in the hole and you fall back while drivers go around you. And that's the most unfortunate part for being 3 wide, is just you have to be the person making the move rather than someone making the move on you. So it's definitely very easy to get past going 3 wide, but it's also very, very risky to make the pass and just get around other drivers. Drivers all over the place in the backstretch, just not in the backstretch, later back in the pack, around 12 rows back, like the 05 of Rickard trying to make his way back up to the front, like we saw him all race today, around in the end of the 10s, early 20s right now. Right now I can't see it, unfortunately, but yeah, he's just trying to make his way back around row 10 right now, but really aggressive right now, trying to make his way back up, as we saw him with the speed making the outside work and taking the lead multiple times. Maybe we'll see the 05 back up here again, pitting for the lead.
Yeah, I mean, Scott Rickard, he decided to come into pit road about 2 laps before we went green, and everyone came to a stop. So trying to make sure that he had enough fuel just in case we go into a green white checkered situation. This series does have 2 attempts if needed. So, just trying to make sure he's got the fuel, so later on in this race, he does have the fuel to make it to the end. The guys up front, they are still keeping it side by side. Some other drivers you want to give note to. We have 4 drivers for 1 lap down. That's going to be that of Brad Davis, Brian Chu, Josh Werner, and also Patrick Hatsey, who are going to be all the way back 1 lap down, still running for themselves. But because of all the fiasco that happened with them being involved in the wreck, going a lap down because of the wreck, and then all the pit roads, I don't think anyone really got a lucky dog for themselves. So leaving all 4 of those drivers still 1 lap down, and going to be questioning if they're going to be able to really help anyone get a win here tonight, unless the caution comes out and they can get a lucky dog and back on the lead lap.
Yeah, and that's the most stressful, or not most stressful, but it's definitely a stressful thing as a driver when you add lap traffic to the factor as well. If a lap car is just up front trying to help out with with the leaders, just helping whatever they can do with getting a position or passing the leader, maybe being in front of him and just trying to get his lap back and hoping for a caution. But drivers definitely don't like having a lap car in front of them, knowing that they have to make up 2 spots just to gain 1. So as a driver, I definitely don't like a lap car in front of me, especially in pack racing when I know they're just in the way, when you're trying to get the most spots as possible. But who knows, maybe all these lap cars right now are teammates trying to make their way up to the front to get their lap back.
Drivers are certainly making their moves on where they're going to be placing themselves up front, and it's been Cole Grims and Andrew Medlin up front, not really having too much to worry about for themselves, but we're starting to see some other faces that we haven't seen up front. The 00, Travis Butt, going to be now ducking low. Now fourth car on the inside, that black and green machine certainly fitting himself in a hole that probably wasn't there, but he forced himself to be down on the low side.
Yeah, drivers really duking it out. We still only have about 29 laps to go. That's still a long ways. Yeah, a lot of miles, long ways right now. I'm sorry, I can't do quick math in my head. I'm not very good at that. But it's very interesting to see just these slicing and dicing moves we see the drivers make right now with still a long ways to go. I mean, we still have 28 more laps to go. That's a long ways for a 2.5-mile track. So it's very, very interesting to see how aggressive these drivers can be and just what they know, how aggressive they can be without pushing it. I mean, I'm not very familiar with these drivers. Maybe a lot of these are veterans and have experience and know what they're doing. But right now, I mean, it's just too wide all the way through and just very aggressive driving right now.
That was super, probably the biggest surprise for myself early. Starting all the way in last place. Because of the caution, and allowed him a second shot to be up in this lead pack, currently 13th, when he started all the way back in 39th position. I mean, what a great job for the 29 machine that's running low and just waiting for his time to make up pressure to possibly gain more positions and get back up in the top 10.
Yeah, right now, the battle for the lead, just the 12 car, just having the advantage on the straights, losing it to the 3 of Cole Grims. On the inside in the corners, and the 12 gaining it back. Right now, it'll be interesting to see if this is how it's going to stay for the finish between the 12 and the 3. But right now, I mean, it's just side by side. Every row back right now, it's very hard to tell what can happen and what can go on. Maybe a driver in the very front can force it 3 wide. Who knows? I mean, I'm speechless right now. As you can tell, I mean, many cars, as you mentioned, I mean, one driver from dead last all the way up to 13th, making his way all the way up to the top 10. Just any driver can make his way up to the lead anywhere by making any move at this racetrack. And that's what makes this place so special, is that you just can't pull away from anybody making you to make whatever move you can or want to.
Well, it's going to be 26 laps to go for these drivers, and certainly, I mean, looking up front, it is kind of set in stone that you've got a lot of favorites up here. You've got Wolfpack leading the group with the 3 and the 12, and then you go back to the second row where you're finding yourselves with the 44 and the 44 doing his work, that Misfit Racing, and some of the other teams that are out here. I mean, certainly have been patient, waiting for themselves to get back up front and possibly have a shot at a win here, but it's kind of been one of those struggles of when a driver's been up front for so long and everyone's staying 2 by 2, it's not really giving opportunities for a lot of drivers to make moves forward unless you are being very methodical and slicing up and down whenever you find a hole.
Right, and I bet the most important part right now for a driver is just building a run, and that's the most crucial thing for making a pass, is just staying far back from a driver, but not too far back so you still have the draft, but building that speed while you're behind him, getting up to his bumper where you're much faster than him from the draft, and then slingshotting past him. Hence the name of the slingshot, is just building a run behind a car to be able to pass him, as that 12 definitely got an advantage from that lap car on the high side. Now going to have the lead going into 1 and 2, but no help from behind, because that 44 is too far back. But I mean, right now it's just all about the runs, and that's how a driver's going to make a pass tonight. But right now the 33 and the 15 are just in the money spots right now for just the best finish they can.
They were 3 wide here, currently in 3 wide action, but that's a lap car that's going 3 wide. But Hunter, we know with the Cup cars, there's been a lot of work for iRacing with the bubble, side drafting. How much of that it really is affecting these Xfinity cars here tonight?
And Sam, there's a very interesting thing with the Cup cars. As you heard recently, a couple months ago, they added the bubble and the side drafting to the Cup cars, but only in the Xfinity cars they did not add that bubble of air between each car. They only added the side drafting, so you could definitely easily see drivers side draft in this package. Maybe not as much as that bubble of air where the leader has a gap between the second place driver and both lanes, the top and bottom. But in this one, you can get right up to the bumper and push them, even in a pack of 2 cars. But in the Cup cars, you see that bubble of air that stays compressed between the cars, and when you see the cars get up to the bumper of that leader, the car just gets all squirrely from that uneven airflow coming up to the nose of their car, and that's what makes that Cup package so special. Is that's what you'll see in real life, but in this Xfinity package, you only see the side drafting and stalling out the runs of the cars on the inside or the outside.
I mean, it's incredible to see how these drivers, with the fact that they can get these massive runs and stay so close, it does make sense that we're not seeing the same aero package. Because I know with the Cup cars, a lot of drivers have been really frustrated because of how more realistic it's feeling of you're not able to get those massive runs that you can get with the trucks and the Xfinities. So it's always fun. I enjoy the massive runs that you can get because you can make a lot of bold moves for yourself, gain some positions, and really march your way forward. But with the new Cup package, I think teamwork is really the biggest thing that can make you win a race or lose it.
Yeah, most definitely, Sam. And teamwork makes the dream work. I mean, everybody knows that simple saying, and I know sometimes it can get very cheesy, but I mean, it's so important at a track like this where you need somebody's help to be able to win it. As we see 3 wide in the pack right now. Oh, that was a very sketchy move right there. They're going to get back 2 wide. That could have gone south very quickly, but like you were just saying, I mean, teamwork.
There they go.
Oh, there they
Get
go.
it spun around and dropping back, losing ground quickly. A huge spin there for Dylan Grimm, who just never had a shot in the 23. Excuse me, actually, that was Jason McCaff that got spun around, but a lot of drivers having to slow up so they didn't run into the 35. As here is your Freaky Fast broadcasting replay. Get to see for the second time here tonight, and second yellow. And this gives a shot for drivers if they want to come in, they can get some work done. But you just see, kind of a fluky incident where drivers trying to find the same little bit of real estate, but you're so far back. This is kind of a spot where you don't expect to see drivers making contact in that type of area.
Yeah, I guess that's that's just drivers working, just not expecting that room that they very little room. I'm guessing they thought they had a little bit more real estate, like you mentioned, and just guess some driver miscommunication with another and just sending them around.
As drivers at the timing of this wreck, 20 laps to go, and now they're going to have a lot of time to think about what strategy calls to make here, because this is an interesting part of the race, because you can come in, top yourself off with fuel, make sure that you've got enough just in case, overtime comes in and becomes a factor. But 20 laps to go also means that you could be saving fuel if you've already pitted. So it's a very tough situation for these drivers to make that call. But, Hunter, for some of those drivers that are further back in the top, 25th on back, do you think they would come in, get some service done for themselves?
I mean, if a driver knows they can make enough fuel, like you see the 12, opting track position, many cars back, we're on the top 15, still staying out, top 10, maybe, yeah, about top 10, but drivers staying out at like the 12, and all these leaders right now, the 3 of Cole, I mean, just electing track position right now. But if you know you can make it on fuel, I would stay out, keep my track position. If you just want to have some just you want to make sure you can make it on fuel, or you have some damage in your car you want to go fix and you're towards the back. I would be all for it. Just go get some service in, like you said. But right now, I believe where there's only around 19 laps to go, I believe that track position is the most important, especially in these final closing laps.
Well, drivers certainly have some interesting calls to make here, but we'll do a quick rundown of your top 10. You've got yourself of Andrew Edlint, Cole Grims, Ken Campbell, as well as Aaron Hall, who we have not seen the 54 up front. I mean, he's been up front, but we haven't touched on him at all this race. A driver that started back in 8th place, started in the top 10, has stayed pretty close to the top 5 to top 15 range. Then you drop back to 5th place. We got that of Nate Lynch, Travis Butt, as well as John Dart, Chris Easer, who what a comeback for the 33, who fell pretty far back in the field, but has been staying and waiting. And you got Mark Beverly in, and finishing out our top 10 is going to be that of George Kerfskik, who the 65 certainly has been an up and down day for him, and probably one of the drivers as well for the 11 of Brian Chu. From the Misfit Motorsports team, who've had the biggest downfalls for their team.
Yeah, and it's just right now. I mean, I don't really know. I don't know what's going on to these drivers' heads. The only way you could really describe it is just asking from a driver. But right now, the 12 and the 3 definitely one of the most fastest cars. Don't look away from that 05 as well of Rickard. He's definitely really fast as well, but I believe teammates over everything else is what wins you races, and that's what you see with the 12 and the 3 right now working together, still being able to battle but keep those top 2 positions, and that's what's so important. But the worst feeling is just coming down to a race win and having to battle a teammate, someone that's worked together with you the whole race, and then you got to go against them and try to beat them. And that's the unfortunate part about super speedway tracks, but that's also the awesome part, you know. So it's a really interesting thing when you look at the aspect of super speedway racing, is how it's teamwork, but it's also not teamwork, you know.
Yeah, you need the skill, teamwork, and I think most importantly, a little bit of luck if you want to get this thing done. For luck, I mean, you got to think. Luckily, some of the drivers that were further back had some poor pit stops. That first caution really saved them to get back with this lead back. This most recent caution, it's helped out that of Brad Davis, as well as Patrick Hasse, who's going to be getting himself back on the lead lap, leaving us with only that of 25 drivers on the lead pack for ourselves. So still, we've seen drivers all the way in the back move their way up front. It took a little bit of time. But this is going to be difficult for some of those drivers up front. Green flag in the air, as up front, it's going to be Andrew Medlin, as well as Campbell, who gave a great shove for the 15. But we're seeing our top 3, really, that inside groove, massive run, and now giving space for the 54.
Yeah, not very good for the 3 of Cole Grims. He's going to get left out in the top, now going to come back down to the bottom, because the 54 then hopped down just to get more track position, and it worked really well for him. But now that 54 is going to be in between teammates, as now he looks up high again, looking for that lead. Man, that 12 got a really good restart and help behind him from that 15 car. The 3 of Cole Grims just got stuck in the hole, falling back all the way to 6th now. Very unfortunate for him. And that 54 looking for the lead for the first time, and it looks like he will, as he's going to clear the 12 on the bottom. Heck of a restart for that 54 car.
And Aaron Hale doing a great job for himself, finding the spaces where he wants to put himself. Here comes the 00, and now our front row, completely different from what it's been like for the first 60 laps. We've got the 54 and the 00, and everyone else that have been up front, they now got to follow suit with the new guys.
Travis Butte and the 54 of Hale just showing them who's boss, making their way up, slicing and dicing through the field. Now you're 2 leaders in both packs. That was one heck of a restart for both of those cars, and don't forget about that 33 as well. He's been up front, looking around all race. He's definitely had a position to look at. Is that outside groove now definitely much better than the inside groove? We've not said it all day, but that outside groove is giving the inside line the run for their money right now. Is that 33 of Esri, definitely a car to look out for. I mean, he's been up front sneaking around all day, Not been the lead car, I believe, at all today, but definitely a really strong car, as we can tell, all day. Almost 3 wide, about 2 rows back as well.
Doing a great job for himself. Also got to think about his teammate in the 65, that of Kovacic, who's done a great job for himself to be making a charge, pushing the 33, and everyone else behind him kind of trying to pick and choose where they want to go. You've also got that of Bill Dart, who came out of nowhere for the 77, another driver in the top 5. He started all the way back in 27th. Same with the 65 back in 25th. So we're starting to see a lot of the drivers that were started outside of our top 10 making their moves to get inside of the top 10. And where's our pole sitter of Cole Grims? All the way back in 10th place and kind of pinched in, stuck, not a lot of space for himself to make any type of moves.
Yeah, and Sam, that's the most unfortunate part about just being left out in a pack when somebody just doesn't give you help, and that shows you right there, going from the leader on the outside line in 2nd place all the way back to 10th just because he has no help. From that 54 is they're getting a little bit dicey up front, but I mean, just it shows how important having a drafting buddy is and how important teamwork really is. But right now, Aaron Hale and Chris Essery working really well right now. Making an outside groove work, but don't count out that 00 Travis Butte working really good on the inside line.
Yeah, Butte right now, the biggest thing to watch out for Butte as well for that of the 54 is they do have some rear end damage, and with that damage, do you think that could be something that could be hindering them, even though they're really up front? They still got a shot here, but could rear end damage be a factor to hurt them later on in this race?
I don't think rear end damage is very crucial since the air is coming over the front of the car first and it goes to the rear of the car last, not affecting it very much. The spoiler definitely still very much intact. I believe nose damage is definitely the strongest since that's where the air is going first towards the car, and it cannot, or it can damage the engine, not getting all the RPMs up and not having the speed on the straight, slowing down all those cars in the line because you up front not having the speed that everyone else has. But fortunately enough, that 54 of Aaron Hale does not have that, and he only has rear end damage. He's just jumped in a little bit, so I don't believe that it's affecting that aerodynamics of the car or a lot. And the 00 has rear end damage as well, so either way, I believe that these two leaders in these two packs right now definitely are at an even advantage.
Certainly are, as you're seeing both lines staying grouped up. Once they hit the line, 11 laps to go for this field, and it's like it went in a blink of an eye. They were green for most of the first half. Then we had a very fluky caution that came out, and now drivers starting to get a little bit more racy in the back half of the field, understanding it's time to make your moves if you want to be up front. We're expecting to see some 3 wide action at times, and up front they're staying stable 2x2x2. And I think around 18th, that's when we're seeing some drivers at least starting to use their bumper a little bit more, trying to shove. You've seen a spot, put yourself there. Driver that's really making some of the moves, Kyle McCoy in the 7. Hit it on the last caution. He is moving up quickly up to 23rd and willing to go up and through the middle.
Yeah, Sam, and still 26 and a half miles still to go. I don't think 3 wide is the move just to make yet. I would still wait around 3 or 4 to go to make as much time as I can and make up as much positions as I can. I believe still having now 25 coming up to the start-finish line to go. But 3 wide action is there. Now we have 3 wide around 4 or 5 rows back. No, we do not. 9 line. I'm sorry about that.
Oh, it's back around 16th, 18th, 3 wide, and who's in the middle of all that? It's the 05, the Scott Rickard. He's understanding it's time to go. They're also going to be a 3 wide action in front of them, and it is going to be a caution waiting to happen. Nick Hall. Oh my goodness, Hauling gets spun around, and it is a massive wreck. The field has nowhere to go. It is now a parking lot out there at Daytona.
Yeah, that's not the big one, folks. That's the giant one. Is every single time they come to Daytona, you expect the big one to strike, but yeah, that was about half the field there.
You saw where it all kind of went out and crazy, and you just see almost every other driver, no front bumper. It's absolutely littered with damage, and maybe we'll take a look at what exactly happened with the 05, because I'm pretty sure he was around where most of this started. But man, what? We're not even sure where to even pick
And,
because half the field was taken out.
and Sam, that's what I hated to see, and I guess it was doomed to happen. But drivers just you have so much more time to make your move, and it's just unfortunately that's what happens. Even though there was still 25 more miles to go. I mean, aggressive driving can unfortunately end out like this. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to be seeing it on board here with the 21. And he really had nowhere to even look coming into this wreck because they all got stacked up in the wall in front of him. You're just going to see the lead pack. They're already 3 wide, starting to see a little bit of smoke popping up as there's bumping going on. And then it's just a wall of smoke, a wall of cars, and already seeing them spinning in front of him. I mean, there's nothing to
Catch
do in this
fence.
situation. Already seeing that of the 25 flipping in front of them. You're
25
just
into the catch fence.
holding
My
on.
goodness.
That's Nate Lynch who goes up in the air, and you see the four. There's just nowhere to go. I mean, even if you're on the brakes, it's just a wall of cars on the apron and on course, and you're just stuck there as drivers still trying to get on all four.
Yeah, Sam, that was about 2/3 of the field there. Ending about 60% of the drivers here day to day. I mean, about 20, still about 20 miles to go. And that's just, as you see, a 25 clipping the catch fence as you wrecked right there. I mean, that is the consequence that happens sometimes with aggressive racing here at Daytona, and the giant one has struck.
Absolutely, and we know that some drivers had already used their fast repairs, and it's looking like that of Christopher Wade, also Josh Warner, already used their fast repairs. Might have actually had to take a tow for themselves. They're now in pit road trying to get service done. You're just seeing, all the there's just so many cars out there, but half the field still in pit road trying to get service done. And it looks like we might have our first DNF of the day, the 9. Looks like he has parked it so far, and nope, he's back, just blinking out. Patrick is still back, but I'm expecting to see some drivers parking it for the day, as we are now going to be less than 8 laps to go, and we go green again. Well, the giant one happened, but doesn't mean we can't have another one happen for ourselves.
Oh, you jinxed it. You jinxed it. I mean, we're gonna have around 6 to go till when the restart happens. Maybe 5 to go. But I mean, as you said, I mean, a majority of the field, a little over the majority of the field, taking their first fast repair. So I mean, as you said, the giant one definitely still can happen. Just very unfortunate for some of the drivers that were trying to make their way up there, like the 05 of Scott Rickard, who has to now use his fast repair. I mean, just trying to get their way up to the field in the quickest amount of time they can, but unfortunately all that time that 05 made up now has to restart and make it all the way back up again now that he's back in the field.
Back to the field, got a new car, and we saw 3 wide action. It's just gonna get even worse from here. Drivers are willing to make some bold moves, but I touched on the fact ruling says you can't make contact with one another while you are in the corners at super speedways. Another rule, can't go 3 wide until they hit the backstretch. So even if you get a good run, you kind of have to just push and shove the driver in front of you until you get to the backstretch where everyone else has kind of gotten up to speed.
Yeah, most definitely. But I want to give a quick shout out here to the 20 car, Derek Offerman. Tony Stewart 2.0. He edited his picture up on Tony Stewart's driver suit, Home Depot. Got the 20 car, the Home Depot car, everything. I mean, this is the next Tony Stewart right here. I just love it how he got the whole driver suit, everything. I mean, asking Home Depot for that sponsorship.
Oh yeah, a lot of these guys bringing out some schemes that some of the real life drivers rock for themselves, showing off some of the great colors that are out there. Christopher Wade and Josh Warner, though, still in pit road and still going to be getting repairs for themselves. Everyone else has gotten stacked in, and Admins, they didn't even know where to start with trying to recover where the penalties were, so they just cleared everyone's black flag, so all the drivers should be good where they're at. Touched on the fact that the 7 was being very bold for himself, Kyle McCoy. He was all the way back around 20th. He had to make his way forward. He's now up to 11th. As drivers get back up to speed, it's going to be Hale. It's going to be that of the 00, but watch out for that 33. He looks like he is willing to make a move here coming out of 2.
00 definitely did not get the restart he wanted. Going to get big checkup, lose about 2-3 spots there. Now giving a lot of room to breathe for the 54 and the 33. Aaron Hale, really all he's got to do now is just drive in his mirror, block as much rows as he can right now. He's blocking the top and bottom rows right now, but that inside line is getting a huge run, losing all the momentum that the 54 had. Now going to lose the lead coming into the inside. Now 3 wide. Going into 3 and 4, it's going to get dicey. Travis Butte now going to get help. The 33 stuck at the top. No help for him. He's going to fall back and lose some spots, but now the 00, Travis Butte going to help him out. Still 3 wide for only about 1 row right now. That 33 stuck up top, losing all the positions he had to work hard for, but right now that 54 of Aaron Hale still trying to keep the positions as he can. He had the lead going in to the backstretch and completely lost it in 1 corner, so Aaron Hale now going to have to work as hard as he can on that outside groove just to keep the lead that he had.
Knocking on wood, but Mike Watts, I've been watching him all race long. He's probably the driver that has been under really a lot of the drivers' radars of someone to watch out for. But the 84 on the inside lane, someone to watch out for once we get later on to this run. But they're 2-3 wide, and now you're starting to see some of the fastest drivers in the first half of this race in line. The 33 and the 3. Just 2 cars, but they're making that 3rd lane work for themselves. If they could just get 2, maybe 3 more drivers to add onto that pack, they might be able to charge forward. But this is looking like calamity about to ensue, just like the last big one.
Yeah, 4 to go. Right now, I mean, it's 2 wide everywhere, and even some places it's 3 wide. Drivers not holding anything back. A lot of drivers trying to make their way back up. That 33 still running right against the wall, getting help from the 3 of Cole Grims still. Falling back a little bit, not getting help from any behind. I think that's why, because they're only a 2-car pack. But I mean, 2-3 wide everywhere. Now just 2 wide all throughout the field. But right now, that 65 of George Kovacic trying to hold on that lead. Maybe try to control the lanes as much as he can, because right now, the 54 and the 65, all they can do right now is drive in their mirror.
Kovacic has done a great job. He has been just lingering and waiting for this time to finally make his move, but Hale's going to be now on the outside, getting a great shove from Butte. Butte's now going to be also getting some help from the 12 of Madeline, and gotta say, a lot of these drivers right now, they're setting up, but here comes the smoke, and here comes the next yellow, as they are all wrecking up front. Well, Hunter, we knew it was coming.
Yep, the jinx, the jinx of the giant one.
3 laps to go. This is going to be putting us in our first attempt at overtime in a green-white checker.
Yep, and it just looks like a product of 3 wide racing. Drivers just trying to get the most they can out of positions with only 3 to go. It looks like the 22 just hooked the 33, ending about 4 or 5 drivers' nights right there.
Flipping and going. I know Beverly in the 22 had already used his fast repair. There's the 44 guy in spun. 31, nowhere to go. Hard contact. Oh my goodness. The 2. How did Mike Lynch get through that? Sneaking through is the 2, as he's been running all the way in the back, waiting. I think he knew the big ones were going to come, waiting for this time to finally make his charge forward. And you know, it wasn't the biggest slide around for the 2, but certainly a lot of drama in front of him when you try to just drive through smoke. As we'll have a hood view, you see that he does have front end damage for the 2, and sees smoke high-low, trying to pick and choose where he wants to go, and just sends it. Luckily, he was off the brakes and found a hole for him to sneak through.
That is one heck of a drive there by the 2. Very little room to breathe in, and he made it work. Very impressive there, slicing the Dyson through the smoke. I mean, you got someone on their hood there coming at it too, but somebody was on their hood there. And as you mentioned, we got a green-white checkered here. I wouldn't expect to see a little bit more cautions, as cautions breed cautions here, especially at Daytona.
Touched on Watts and McCoy. They've been willing to make some moves forward, but also the 3 of Grims. He's back in 9th. And in 10th place, Eric Shaw. I mean, Shawward, who I don't even know how the 13 is up to 10th place as more drivers coming into pit road trying to get some service done for themselves. But some of these drivers that have gotten up front, some of them had some very unique ways to get up here. And certainly some dropped back early in this race, knew this was going to be a marathon type of a race where it was going to take time to get up front. Other drivers understanding why not get up front as quick as possible, but setting up for our first attempt at a green-white checkered here, Hunter. I mean, we got to see most of this race. Technically, this would be the white flag that they're on if we were under regulation. But overtime rules go a little bit further. What were your thoughts on these first 80 laps?
Oh man, the first 40 were incredible, amazing racing, too wide all the way through, varying strategies. It would have been very interesting to see what those strategies would have been and how they would have played out for the first, or for that very first green flag run in. If it stayed green, unfortunately it didn't. We got a caution, and then the big one ensued after that. But very interesting racing. I mean, some drivers playing it safe. Early in the race, like Aaron Hale and Travis Butte, and they just stayed mid pack to the back of the pack at the beginning of the race, made their way up to the front, and now the leaders starting out in overtime. So it's gonna be very interesting to see. We have 2 attempts for overtime, so if there is a yellow before they take the white flag, we will get one more shot at a green-white checkered. But what will you expect to see coming out of this green-white checkered finish here, Sam?
Well, with the ruling of them not being able to go 3 wide into turn 1, I mean, it's going to make things a lot more interesting going into turn 4 and out of 4 coming to the white flag. I'm expecting a wreck to happen, but they were able to stay green there for at least 3 to 4 laps. They certainly can do it, but you know some drivers that are going to be further back. Starting the line of the drivers that just went into pit road, got service done, got themselves some a fresh new car. The 88 of Timmy McNally, McNally, excuse me, 88 machine. I'm wondering how he's going to do, but he's all the way back in 20th position. It's going to be a long road for the 88, but certainly has a chance to gain some positions if some carnage happens up front. But I'm expecting a second attempt for sure for these guys here, Hunter. But before we go green, big thanks to that of ButtKicker. Feel what you've been missing. If you want to get yourself a gamer to feel the sound, not just hear it, use Freaky Fast 20. That's Freaky with 2 E's, Freaky Fast 20. When your promo code when purchasing, you'll get 20% off of your gamer too. ButtKicker, feel what you've been missing. But this has been exciting, Hunter. This is our first race here with the Stars and Stripes Xfinity Series. Certainly have not disappointed, that is for sure.
Oh, most definitely. I mean, we've had a couple cautions, but that's just a product of Daytona. I mean, great racing throughout every single position today. Drivers making their way all the way back from the back to the front. Drivers playing it safe, and now as the leaders. So it's been a great way to learn how these drivers, what their style is and what it's going to be. But it's definitely going to be a very, very interesting season, and I don't. Like you mentioned, I mean, it's a very new league. I'm still going to get used to how fast the drivers are here, what their style is, and I'm really looking forward to it. As this race has definitely made a really good starting ground for this league.
Green flag in the air at our first attempt at a green-white checker for the Stars and Stripes Xfinity Series. Who's gonna win the debut race here? And it's gonna be Aaron Hale up front. Travis Butte gonna be trying to figure out how to make that outside line work. And then on the inside, second car there, it's gonna be the 65 of that of George Kravecki, who is gonna be one of those drivers expecting to make a move here coming at it too. And also behind, Bill Dart. Haven't really seen the 77 there that often, but there's a lot of new faces. Some of those older guys we haven't really seen up front yet in a while. Where are they? They're almost out of this. The 12, he's back in. It's going to be the first car on the outside, forcing it 3 wide as they're entering turn number 3. We're hoping we get the white flag here, Hunter, as they're going through 3 and 4.
Yeah, the 65 made a mistake, jumped up to the higher line thinking that he would get the run, but he had nobody to help with. Now he's going to be stuck in the holes. The 77 of Dart now jumps up to the high line, hoping that he could get a run. It's going to be a drag. It's going to be a drag. A photo finish here, looks like. But we got 2 wide, 3 wide all the way here for the finish. The 54 looks like an easy advantage, but the 77 trying to knock on the door to maybe get a run on this backstretch to be able to compete for the finish here at the 54. But it looks like right now the 54 is going to be mirror driving to hold off these drivers behind him.
It's going to be Mike Watts just holding on, and now he's going to find an opening on the inside. Now going to be needing a little bit of help from the 00 Butte because Hale made a mistake. He went high. He's going to need some help, but the 88's got the, 84 got the momentum. He's got it there on the block. Here comes Butte, a lot of momentum. He can move up with that momentum, and here comes McCoy as well in the 7. We're coming across the line. It's going to be a dramatic finish as the wrecking coming out of 4. It's looking close, but it looks like it's going to be Watts. As the wrecking behind, it's the 84 and the 00. It's going to be Mike Watts winning this thing.
What a finish there. That was an incredible finish. Just awesome racing all around. Wow, what a finish for Mike Watts.
Mike Watts, as well as Travis Butte, and the driver that we touched on that tried a different strategy, but the late caution threw him out of this. Adam Allen able to get 3rd place for himself when he started all the way back in 34th. With all the carnage that happened, it gave them a shot to make some great moves forward, as there was calamity coming through 3 and 4, as well as coming through the tri-oval. Plenty of positions to be grabbed, but that for Mike Watts, what a comeback move for himself. I said he was a driver that was kind of under the radar. No one was really focusing on him, but he was there at the end when it mattered. Mike Watts, what a win for the 84 to start the season off.
And that's the best way to just get your momentum into next week and into the season. Now you're the new points leader. Kept that car in one piece, just had a really good day all around. Now you got that momentum going into the second week, being confident that you were the winner. Now you're the points leader. So all that confidence boost and momentum just going into week 2 that's the best thing about winning the season opener. And unfortunate just for other drivers who had a really good day and just had to end it wrecking out.
Mike Watts gets to just park it. He's not going to do some burnouts, just going to sit there and have some fun while we wait for Mike to get out of his car. We'll interview him as well as Butte, as well as Adam Allen. 84 gets to burn it down out in the grass. We'll step aside. We'll be back interviewing our top 3.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back here to the Stars and Stripes Xfinity Racing League. Here for our top two interviews right here. Unfortunately, we did not have the third finisher of Adam Allen, but looking forward to these top two interviews right here. Here's your second place finisher of Travis Butte. Hey, Travis, Hunter up here in the booth. You got a copy?
I got a copy.
Well, man, you had a spectacular race today. You were up front most of the race, front to mid pack, all through the race. Amazingly, just slice and dice through the field, kept it up front towards the end of the race, even with some damage on the rear. Just tell me, what was your mindset through that entire race today?
We had a game plan at the beginning to hang in the back. I was able to stay a little closer there at the front. I think around 20th, I think through lap 40 when we started pitting. I stayed out a lap later than everyone else, and I know a lot of seemed like 15 cars pitted there about lap 40. So I was able to pit right there, and I was able to gain some ground there. And when that caution came out, it came out 6. So I was like, oh, I'm not going to drop any back any farther. So we hung up front, and there was just that weird incident where I got all that damage. That kind of hurt me. I think I had a good shot at Watts if I didn't have that damage, but congrats to him. He ran a good race and there at the right time. I didn't know there was an 84 round until he won. So, congrats to him. He ran a good race, and Kyle, my teammate, gave me a good push at the end too to get him out front, and we'll take a second.
Well, man, you definitely were up front most of the day, mainly pushing others rather than being up front in that clean air. Did you ever have to worry about temperatures as much while you were behind somebody and pushing somebody else, or did you have enough space between everybody else and everybody staying spaced out between each other, or just what was it like being in the middle of a pack?
They were back in the back when I was in the back. I didn't have to worry about temperatures, and even when I was up there pushing the front guys, these Xfinity cars just create such a big bubble that it's you don't have to really get on somebody to really push somebody. So, I didn't really worry about. I can't even say the time I even looked at my temperatures. I think towards the end right there I maybe looked, but I really didn't even look at my temperatures today. I didn't think they were that much of a worry. So, no, I mean, other than that, that last couple laps, I think I glanced at them, but I was never above 220, 230.
Well, buddy, you had a really good race today. You were really lucky enough to make your way all the way back up through the field from that back, avoiding wrecks and able to put it in second place. Is there anyone you want to give a shout out to before you get ready for next week?
Yeah, thanks to I do appreciate Kyle giving me a push right there. He helped me a lot right there, and thanks to the Sports Commute. They're a good little podcast, a lot of NASCAR stuff. So give them a follow if you can. And then thanks for showing me motorsports. So we'll get them next week. I don't know where we're at next week. I'm day by day, so hopefully we can maybe get a win next week with all our team.
Alrighty, thank you, brother.
Thank you.
And that was Travis Butte. Thank you for Travis for coming up into the booth. And now we're going to be bringing in our race winner, that of Mike Watts, up into the booth. Mike, it's Sam up in the booth. You got me?
Yeah, I hear you loud and clear.
Well, what a race it was for yourself. It just seemed like you were under the radar for most of the race, and then you found yourself there at the end. Give us a rundown from your point of view on that green-white checkered.
Well, things always are crazy at the end. You never know how they're going to end. I usually call them green white wreckers because that's usually how it ends for me. But we were just me and my teammates just tried to stay out of trouble all day, keep the fenders on the car. I was going to be satisfied pretty much with the top 10 because the way the race was playing out, I mean, you could get in one line, you get in the other line. If you weren't in front, you weren't moving. So there on the restart, I just kind of stayed low and pushed. I think it was the 77 as hard as I could, and then he moved up, and the 54 moved up, moved back down. I pushed to 54. I was going to push him across the line, and we pushed out. And I thought there might be a space where I could jump out to the outside, but then he moved to the outside. I think to block a run that was coming on his outside, and that left the inside open for me. And Travis Butte just gave me a push, and from there it was just across the line. But yeah, I mean, I never thought I'd get up to the front, and it's just the way things worked out. That's the way these plate races are, man. You just never know. It's really a chess game almost.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there were a couple of wrecks there at the end that set up this green white checkered. I know we were struggling to really capture everyone that was involved because there were so many wrecks happening. But for yourself, how was it trying to get through those wrecks and trying to make sure you still had a clean car there at the end?
Well, fortunately, the big wrecks I think happened behind me. I know there was one that like almost happened like right. I think it happened right behind me. There was a guy going three wide right behind me. I moved up a little bit, and I think he tried to drive down into the middle, and there was somebody there, so that caused a big wreck behind me. And fortunately, I just missed him. You know, I was up front enough that I was able to miss those, and had really good restarts and just tried to find a hole and just stay in it, you know. And I think a lot of guys get in trouble when they try to do the side drafting stuff and try to move around, try to find a better line. And it's like I said, it's really tough. You really just have to find a place and stay in it. Real things will happen, you know. Either it's meant to be or it's not meant to be. I mean, if you're out front, you could be aggressive, but um, there's just not a lot of room here. At Talladega, it's another story. You can go 3, 4 wide at Talladega, no issue. Here, it's like three wide is you got to be able to trust yourself. You got to trust the guy on the inside and the outside of you, and that's a whole lot of trust that I just don't know if that exists here.
Yeah, there were some moments where we just saw three wide and we were just thinking carnage is about to happen. But Mike, last question before we let you go. We're going to Kansas, mile and a half racing. The season now has begun. You win the first race. How are you feeling about going to Kansas next week?
I wish I could say that I was feeling great about it, but I'm not a big fan of Kansas, and I happen to have a work obligation that requires me to go out of town, and I won't be able to race Kansas. But I'm looking forward to the next race after that. Um, so it was kind of good that I won this because otherwise, I don't think I'd be anywhere close to the points. I'm hoping to make the rest of the races. I don't have anything else scheduled for the rest of the year, so I just happen to have this thing I have to do next week for work, and I'm gonna miss Kansas, but I really enjoyed racing with these guys. A lot of these guys are really good, really hard nosed racers, and you know, I think Daytona probably give me the best chance to win because you know, again, there's a lot of talent here, and it's good that I kind of got that out of the way, and I just hope to be competitive with the rest of these guys for the remainder of the season.
Well, Mike, congratulations on winning and practically giving yourself a ticket to the playoffs. But before we let you go, the floor is yours for any shout outs.
Oh, I just want to thank my team for coming out and running tonight, and everybody that came out and ran tonight. It really puts on a good show, and you know, there's a lot of good-looking cars out there, a lot of good drivers out there. So I think it's going to be a really good season, and I'm looking forward to getting to know a lot of these guys and racing with them, and just having fun.
Well, Mike, again, congratulations on your win and have a great night celebrating this one.
Yes, thank you.
That was Mike Watts winning the start of the season here at Daytona. And what a way to start the season off. Hunter, what are some of your final thoughts as we start to bring up the grid?
Just a very impressive finish all through around. Just or not a finish. Sorry about that. A very impressive racing all through around this entire race for everybody. Double wide the entire race, at least somewhere on that track. So I applaud all those drivers out there. Just keep an eye out. Unfortunately, had some wrecks throughout the pack, but yet again, that's just a product of Daytona. But very exciting way to start off a brand new league here, especially in the Xfinity cars at Daytona.
As we look at our final racing results, we know the admins are going to have a fun time looking at this one. So unofficially, Mike Watts able to get the win here with Travis Butte going to be getting second place. Adam Allen's in third. Aaron Hale going to be able to get fourth place. Ken Campbell going to be getting fifth with Timmy McNally going to be getting sixth position of Kyle McCoy up to seventh in that seven machine. Eric Ashwar going to be able to get eighth. Derek Offerman. I mean, what a comeback story for that 20 machine up to ninth. And Nate Lynch in 10th position. And looking at some of the other drivers here, we know that Brian Burkett had some fans out there in the 223. He had a very up and down race where he was really further back in here at the end, able to finish in 12th position for that team. But Hunter, looking at some of the drivers that were our favorites in the first 40 laps, like Scott Rickard, Cole Grims, Brian Chu, they were finishing in 15th to 17th. It wasn't the finish that they were hoping to have, but at least good enough to start the season off.
Oh, definitely. And I would never beat myself up or drag myself down at a restrictor plate track if you have a good day and you unfortunately ended up the way you didn't want it to end. But yet again, that's just a factor. Restrictor plate racing, it's anybody's race that they can win, and you can be in the front in one lap and in last in the next one. So I would just pick myself up and get ready for next week, as we definitely saw the speed in that 05. I'm looking forward to seeing the next races in him these next couple of weeks, because that 05 definitely is one to look out for.
Yeah, and we've touched on it plenty of times here tonight. This is our first race with this league. First time to see a lot of these drivers. So next week, going to give us a lot of information. What is the 1.5 mile speed some of these drivers have as we go to Kansas? But Hunter, thanks for being up in the booth with me. It was fun working with you. It was our first time working together. I would say it went pretty well.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. It's always a fun time with different personalities in the booth, and it's definitely an awesome job. I also love how excited you get in the last couple of laps when the racing gets even harder. So looking forward to these next couple of races with you.
It is going to be a fun one, Hunter. Well, tonight we got to close out the final couple of laps, but to finish out our broadcast, we're going to throw it over to Robert Moyer Jr. to finish out the call.
All right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in here tonight with Stars and Stripes, as it is the season opener. And what a season opener we had here with Sam and Hunter calling great action. So, if you don't mind, if you enjoyed this content here at Freaky Fast Broadcasting, don't forget over on YouTube, you can hit that subscribe button and you can hit that like of this video, and also share this video to your favorite social media platform. We do much appreciate it. But like they said, next week we'll be at Kansas and we're going to see what the 1.5 miles looks like with some of these drivers. But man, what a race, what a wreck. We had carnage, we had cars flipping over the fences almost. It was just crazy. So, but I want to say to Sam and Hunter, again, great calling. But all right, well, our next broadcast will be Saturday night at what time is it? 8:50 with Lee Tidwell and Sam in the booth. So make sure you tune in then, as it's going to be, I believe they're going to be at Road America. So we're going to see some different NASCAR, cup cars at Road America. It's going to be pretty fun to watch and see how them guys on Saturday night navigate that track. But till then, everybody have a great Friday, and we're going to say God bless everybody. We love yous all. Peace out.